Morning, everybody. It is bread baking day here on the rancho, and you're saying to yourself, Rosie, that's so liquidy. What kind of dough is that? Well, you should always start your dough the night before by making what's called a Polish, which is mostly water, 2 cups of water, a cup of flour, a pinch of salt, a little bit of oil, and 1/8 of a teaspoon, just a tiny bit of yeast. Get that all mixed together, and then the next morning let it sit overnight. You're going to have a real lively batter that's going to deepen the flavor here. This sat overnight and also gathered some of the wild yeast in the air, and it's going to give a deeper brown coloring on the outside, and the flavor is going to be much more intense. So we're going to keep this short today. I think I started with 2 cups of water, a cup of flour, pinch of salt, about 1/4 of a teaspoon of yeast, and a couple tablespoons of oil. Let it set overnight. I have it up on the counter now. Look at how lively it is, and this is the consistency it should be. It's more like a batter than it is a dough, and that's exactly the way you want it. Let that sit, get nice and happy and bubbly. And we'll be adding flour in and kneading that and getting it up to the dough ball that you're used to seeing. There's a loaf of artisan bread getting ready for its last rise. I took the Polish or the battery dough from this morning, and I added 2 cups of flour, a teaspoon of salt, and I kneaded this in the KitchenAid mixer for about 15 minutes, put it in a bowl, let it rise, punched it down, let it rise again, and now I've shaped it for baking. I want to tell you, it's also critical that you use a baking stone, and this is a well-used one I have. And the reason that you want to use a baking stone is to get the maximum oven spring or rise out of your bread dough. You want a lot of heat hitting the bottom, and just having it exposed to the air circulating in the oven is not enough. You put the pan that I have here on the baking stone, and it's going to allow a tremendous amount of heat to transfer. It's going to give a nice golden brown on the bottom, and it's going to promote the rise or maximum oven spring. Very important to use a baking stone. I don't know how well you can see that, but I have set my oven to 800 degrees, and this is another trick for making artisan bread. Setting your oven to 800 degrees will provide maximum oven spring, or the ability also for the bread loaf to achieve its maximum size, because it's going to send the yeast into a frenzy, which is going to greatly increase the size of the loaf. And we're going to do one more other trick to slow down the crust from forming, thereby allowing it to reach its maximum in terms of size of the loaf. Our bread is just about ready to go in. I have scored it in the French way. They give three slices on top. It's looking good. I think it's risen quite a bit here. I want to also tell you guys to make great artisan bread, besides the fact that I'm going to bake at the highest temperature, 800 degrees here for 10 minutes. You'll see I also put a skillet in the oven to come up to temperature. And what I'm going to do, you can see here I have some ice cubes, and when I go to put the bread in, I'm going to put the ice cubes in the skillet at the same time I put the bread in, and that's going to slow the setting of the crust and allow for the maximum rise of the dough before it sets. Okay, giving us a little more what you call oven spring here. So very, very important for making artisan bread. And guys, the bread is in. I have my ice creating steam, and for 10 minutes I'm going to heat this at 800 degrees. See you in 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, we drop the heat down to 400, and we go about 40 minutes. here, 35-40 minutes. You can see how beautiful that looks, that loaf. And we're going to let that finish cooking out. After 40 minutes, we'll pull it out, give it a final egg wash here, and pop it for 10 more minutes, and it should be great. Here we go. We got about 20 minutes to go, and look at how that loaf looks. Isn't that beautiful? Just amazing looking. Let's finish her off. You can see how beautifully the finished product turned out. That's going to be some great eating. Has a nice crust on it. Make sure you should check the description box down below for the full recipe. Always start your bread the night before. Always use a baking stone. Always use ice to slow the setting of the crust, and bake at high heat for the first 10 minutes, as high as your oven will go. And you will produce artisan bread like this. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thumbs up are appreciated.